Hey there, ArtyAliens, and welcome. I'm Paul Yateman. I draw stuff, and today I finished a sketchbook. So this is the actually it's the first proper sketchbook tour, as opposed to just showing slideshows of scanned images, which I've done for the last, I don't know, 20 or whatever years. So this sketchbook I started on the 1st of January. When I began my anatomy challenge, and I finished it up yesterday with my self-portrait anime style. And the things in this book aren't arranged. How is it? They're not arranged by date order, mostly because some of the pages are left blank and then went back to fill in the sketchbook. So here's what I did on the who knows of the what date? 1st of the 1st. That's my first anatomy sketchbook. Sorry, my first anatomy sketch. Here we have some more. So we got this. And then I did that. Working on the anatomy course, and I redid that from, I think, previous day? Yeah, day 1, day 2, improvement. Day 2, probably put it out the right way. Day 2, whereas day 1 was that one. Simian-ish. The other one looks more, I know, juvenile-ish. So, still working on skulls. I think this has helped with actually drawing characters subsequent to that month, so that's all good. Some more. And most of these are pretty much copies from my anatomy, or from my fundamentals of drawing anatomy book. That's one way you learn. You copy stuff. A skull with a few different jaws, a few different nose bits. Didn't use that page. Back page wasn't used because marker. Some ribs that came out better than that, but that was my first go doing ribs. Still trying to work on skulls, trying to do it based on memory. Then we have some of my Geiger challenge work, so the penis monster and the hell beast. Then back to January where I did hips. So we got a side view and a view from above. Direct copies, or as close as you can get. Use my eye from the anatomy book. Fingers, not too happy with that. I'm surprised that came out as well as it did, because I wasn't able to reproduce it the next day when I decided to do some more hands. But it's nice, clean. Or probably not the next day, probably a few days after. Another skeleton with some joints from various angles. Tried to do some feet. This foot here was on the wrong angle, so I gave it a horizon line to show you the plane it was on, and show you, I guess, how much bone and muscle and whatnot are around the skeleton. And then just feet in various poses based on the book. Then I did this. I got used to working on muscles, which is about the same time I started to use blending stumps for the first time ever. And quite a few of these, as you would have noticed if you've been watching some videos, following me on maybe social media, is I make this look like muscle by doing a red overlay in Photoshop. When I say look like muscle, give it muscle redness. More heads with muscles. Here's where I actually tried to apply colour as part of my drawing. So I used a mix of red brush pen and red Derwent pencils. I tried to have another go because I felt this bit here, I think it was a bit wonky, which is why I did that. More muscles. What I also started to do was spray over the top with protecty spray stuff. And I guess if your pen can stamp alcohol markers, it can stand up to the protective spray, so I'm guessing this marker wasn't much chop for that. So leg muscles, and then I had another day of doing more leg muscles. And then we did the foot. That came out nicely, especially the shading around the tendon. That I felt didn't come out too well, so I figured I'd give that another go a few days later. Mainly no ass, proportions all out of whack. Dude from front on, or it could be a female, it's probably a dude based on the muscles size. Sans genitalia. Some heads using templates and so forth, which you can see here and here and here, which led to these two. Came out quite well. Next day, that's the improved person from the rear, and then we've got a person lying down with very, very gluteus buttocks. And then from there, I went into trying to draw not so much anatomy, but features. So we've got people. I think there's about 5 stages in the actual book instead of 4, but anyway, that's how far you get with 4. When I say book, I mean fundamentals of anatomy. A couple of different faces. So we've got a dude, a girl, an old dude, and a bearded dude. And then the next day, trying to draw people, or at least the forms of people with the basic shapes that are dictated in the book. And I had another go at a skull. I think that worked out the best, so that's why I've highlighted the back of it. I'll sort of give that another go on the next day. So with the anatomy here, I was keeping the redraw of the Spider-Man thing, which I never really got around to with this pose. Also like hand bits and stuff, which then I extended that into the next day when I did some foreshadowing of basically a self-portrait photo I took. Here's the skull again, with probably a better form than we see on that page. Just a bigger skull casing. The next day I took a photo of myself to get the hand thing for like the web slingy bit done right. And lots of foreshortening here. And then that's just a drawing of a Terminator figurine I have. Trying to also get the hand pointing towards the camera. Because it's off the figurine, not so much a foreshortening effect. Nothing on the reverse because of the coping marker. More skulls here. I started with these two. Tried to do a normal skull that looks more fetal or juvenile. Not very well done. I decided to give one fangs, and I decided to make one alien-like because why not? Did some on the back, so a skull, a couple of head things. So that the idea here was to do 3 heads, show skeleton, bone, skeleton, muscle, skin, and then another skull because I'm still trying to get that down. And then just a whole bunch of posing studies where I've gone through about 6 or 7 books I have and drawn human poses based on how those books have done it. So we've got like Matt Dixon and Drawing and Painting for Fancy Figures by Finlay Cohen. Idiots Tried to Drawing Manga. Anime Techniques, Fantasy Artist Illustrated Technique Book, How to Draw and Paint Vampires, Anatomy of a Fantasy Artist, and My Style. That was good. I should actually do more of that. I was thinking like if I do more fashion croquets, that is good in 2 respects because it teaches me how to draw people better as well as design clothing for fantasy or whatever characters. A day trying to get the hand right using basically the fundamentals of hand shape. Not too well. I find when I'm doing hands I actually go much better like posing my hand and doing it. I bought a Spider-Man figurine So I posed him and then did a whole bunch of drawings based on the figurine, which is how we got this one here. Then I had, as part of the Manga challenge, some different hairstyles. One thing I found when I first tried to do hair was I would bound it by the top of the head, not have it go above the head. So here above, a little bit of space, 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 which works better. And this one here I explored another day. That's supposed to be the redhead out of Invincible. Didn't come out very well. That's sort of based on one of the On Flux Regna soldiers, I think. And yes, that's that one. Then we go back to the anatomy challenge days. Basically a whole bunch of skull studies with a little bit of Spider-Man, and the best one was this zombie, which wound up being a happy accident. Because all I did was just put some hair on it and give him sunken eyes, and it's like, ooh, that came out okay. What do we got? Ooh. I thought I missed a page, but I didn't. Okay, my final day of my Geiger challenge was an attempt at doing a realistic eye. Originally I had the eyebrow down here, which didn't work out too well. I've probably gone overboard with the lashes. The iris could be a bit more circular. But considering it's the very first attempt at doing an eye that's anyway near realistic, pretty good, I think. Picture from a Chris Foss challenge. Sort of based on one of his ships here, based on one of my own here. And then the page there didn't get anything on it because Kobik. This here is a variation on that. One thing I find with drawing is building up references is great, and developing your own designs and characters is good as well. The drawing I did yesterday, which was my anime style self-portrait, which came out okay for a first go. Sketch of another Chris Foss challenge design. So this is basically shampoo bottle, a couple of communication towers from a photo I took, repeated satellite TV dish from a house next door, so a photo I took, and a couple of little soap bottles from a hotel, which winds up being a spaceship, which I did in Photoshop. So check out the video about my Photoshop spaceship, which I may as well put a info card up there if I get around to it. The first day of my Manga challenge, did some eyes, various eyes. So we got female eye, different style of female eye, but supposed to be a bit older. Maybe I could squish up a little bit. A big female eye and a sad eye. And then with the Chris Foss challenge, we have the original here. When I say original, the original redraw of a design I'd created back in the 90s, and then here. And I explored highlighting spaceships with both little boxes in the back here, which I saw on someone's Instagram account, which I can't recall what they are now. I mean, Robert. And doing banding boxes as well, which that works nicely as well. And then it sort of makes this disappear into the background because you don't pay attention to that. You pay attention to what the eye is drawn to. So nothing here. I was just testing my Faber-Castell brush pens against Copics, and at least the black stands up to Copics. The coloured ones, they bleed. Another Chris Foss challenge spaceship. Riffing off his design, pretty much my own design for a ship there. Nothing on the back, because again, Copics. Another spaceship here. He did a series where the spaceships have like tentacles and stuff, which I assume were for robotic manipulation and stuff. And I decided to have a go trying to draw something like that. I'm not sure the aircraft looking structure in the middle being round goes quite with the outer bits, but maybe it's something created by someone similar to, say, Rifters in Firefly, as in just a mashup of various ships that have been found to make something that's functional, especially with the tentacly stuff hanging off it. Again, Copic on the back, so no drawing. That being said, I or you could re-go over this with fine liner and create a design that's similar to, but different to, the one we see this page. That's something to always keep in mind when filling up a sketchbook. Drawing here, I don't know, 10 years ago Eve had a design a spaceship competition. I didn't enter it, but I did some thumbnails for it. That's what that one's based on. And that's just, let's fill in the gap and draw another spaceship. So, totally out of my head, that design is there. Then, marker, so no reusing of page. Here's a spaceship based on a personal entertainment device. I thought these things here would make nice thrusters, and the ship's nicely streamlined. So yeah, again, Copic on back. This one here is based on an asteroid mining vessel I drew years ago. Totally experimental background to sort of mirror the texture we have on the asteroids and within the center of the ship. This was seeing whether or not my I think it's a bottle of IPA would work for blending, and it didn't really. All it did was caused chromatography effects to bleed out the ink, which is why I made it into a sort of explosion. Doesn't really fit the whole picture, but yeah, experimentation. That's what we do. So again, nothing on the back because Copics. Here's me playing around with some drawings from my Chris Foss hardware book. I did some concept designs for the 84, I think, June. So Spice Vessel, Sandworm. I've drawn a navigator here, and I've redesigned a navigator here to make it sort of surrealistic Geigerish. People here on top of Sandworm to give it some sense of scale. And there's rough drawings, which is why this sort of goes instead of smooth. And these things probably wouldn't close up properly. But anyway, that's one thing with concept design. Your designs don't have to be perfect. You're trying to lead towards an end result. Manga challenge, I think. Yep. So here's me trying to draw Trevor Goodchild from Eon Flux. First go, too bulky, still too bulky, not elongated enough. So maybe I'll give that another go. Here's that Spice ship from the previous page redrawn, and actually goes up this way. So I figured this would be the bottom. So navigator, trying to use the blendy marker, give it some texture, and added some red and oranges to sort of make it look like it was in a nebula or something like that. What's next? Yep, nothing because of Copic. Based on a Chris Fossy design, colours are okay, perspective is way off. Could have left that out because that doesn't. That's wrong. This bit's okay, but that, nah. So yep, nothing because. Good thing I scanned this in after I did it because the thing on the back's killed it. I wasn't too sure about this design. Not too sure if these are too skinny or we could have more. Or the circle things in the middle work, or this bulb thing up the top works. Don't know. That could maybe be twisted out a bit more. But I did that all in marker with no pencil, I think. So, yeah. Here's another go doing a manga portrait, trying to make it not quite normal by ripping his lower face off. Finish that one off in Photoshop. We have a land speeder, which I did as part of the Chris Foss challenge, which made it into my sci-fi colouring book. And quite a few of the Chris Foss ones did as well. Yep, again, nothing good, marker. Trying to riff on a Chris Foss set where he was doing like these big clawed things. So I've done one of my own designs, which is basically people sitting on top of rocket engines, which I did a series of those back in probably the late 80s. So yeah, it's crap quarter spaceship based on one of my own designs, which has been coloured Chris Fossy probably badly. The base of my crap on in a hat from the Max, which I finished off in Photoshop. Again, some more of these tentacular Chris Fossy designs. This one's a skull ship, either capturing and destroying another ship, or maybe it's just part of a wrecking crew that's killing ships or recycling ships. Who knows? So yeah, nothing on the back. Did a few Doodle Art things, which is this is the first one. Supposedly I wouldn't say rules because I haven't looked into it that much, but supposedly everything in the background is supposed to be detailed as well. But anyway, that's how I do it. So yeah, nothing on the back because marker. Speaking of that, what do we got? Doesn't tell me, but used to be a sticker here, and I'm pretty sure this is 110 grade. Whereas if I was going to go something thicker, maybe 230 grade wouldn't bleed, and the bleed proof marker pads definitely don't bleed, but they're not in a nice binder. Here's another variant on Doodle Art, but this is coloured in using my Derwents as opposed to my markers. I've tried to go a little bit surrealistic with a few of these with this thing here. Like, is it an alien? Is it a hand? Who knows? Could be both. More manga stuff. So I was playing around with the female head. So we got a normal head, and that's supposed to be the female version of the dude from a few pages back with the teeth. Again, I finished this off in Photoshop. This one here is either supposed to be a RAM drive or a solar sail thing. Probably more of a RAM drive, but then there's absolutely no sense of depth here. And if it was a solar sail, I think that would be a hell of a lot smaller. But exploration is what we do. So yeah, Copic marker on the back, so no using of the page. Although it could be good to actually get some depth in that one. Here's one of my later Chris Foss pages, heavily based on one of his works, based on my brain. So yeah, nothing on the back. Copics could probably do that again in marker, as in fine liner. Here's my Mars rover I drew. This one was an interesting one because what I did was I coloured this both in grayscale and in a red-brown scheme, both of which I've put up on YouTube as videos. I explained a bit about colour theory and stuff like that. And what I did for these was drew this, scanned it in, printed it out on bleed-proof paper, and then coloured it. I don't have the coloured-in versions close at hand, so if I did, I'd show them, but I don't. So there you go. More recent, trying to play around with characters. So I've got this weird rabbity thing here. That was supposed to be a weird rabbity thing, but with the tail, but it looks more like a really wacky kangaroo. This is a prehistoric cuttlefish, I think. A few more things, then I did this little caterpillar here, which I thought I liked quite well, which is why we've coloured him and highlighted him, and I explore this dude a little bit later. While we're at it, yeah, so that dude gets explored here. And this is my like black sugar paper book. And prior to that, I did some sketching in a waterproof sketch pad to lead from that to this. Again, there's a video on YouTube of that. Geiger style day one. Various elements. So that's the only thing based on Geiger's Alien specifically. The rest is basically drawn off the top of my head, and that was probably the last element I added. So yeah, a blending stick / stump came in really handy for this one. Okay, then what we have is more Geiger style stuff. Okay, sorry for the pause. So this is one based on a drawing I did ages ago, which was just in fine liner. The way it's turned out, it's looking like this is water, as opposed to this basically sitting in rocks or something, but that's fine. Something I called milking machine, which is just an exploration into a breast and a biomechanical areola and something coming out of it, and a skull, and trying to make it so realistic / Geigerish. And we have what I call the fertilicon, which is what is it? Picture plants, supposedly testicles, pipes and stuff to make it look like a reproductive system, but not. And we've got the Baticon, which is a skull, a really thick spinal column with a weird tongue and some wings. And we have your standard chest burster. These things here I could have either not done as many of the things here, or I could have centered these down here, because there's a hell lot more of that there than there is here. This totem is based off the Scullycon I did, as in the teeth extending down, as in here. And this will forever remain a work in progress. Although if you come back to me in 20 years, it might get done. Face hugger. What I did in post-production was I shrunk that to make it match that size. There was a praying mantis in my garden, which inspired this. I think that comes out really nicely, as well as these things here. And this is one thing where I found that using this blending stump and just light lines, like this is one of the fastest bits I actually did, where it came out probably one of the best bits of the drawing. Going through a Geiger book, quick sketch of his derelict. The actual derelict camera angle's probably a bit higher than here, so I've got more landscape than what the actual reference drawing has. I did a few sort of Star Wars based spaceships, as in here's an X-Wing, but biomechanicalized. Same goes for the A-Wing here, based on biomechanical. This was an interesting one. This was supposed to be either based on a labia, like with clitoris and a few things, but also based on a heart. I think it comes out sort of okay. I think it was better before I got to it with markers as well. Just a biomechanical dude based off Geiger's Alien, but with some of my own influences / contributions. Nothing on the back because marker. I did one day of my biomechanical challenge / HR Geiger challenge, where I just did like the key components that you may or may not use when you're drawing in that style. I did a video on that. And we have Perchicon 2, which is based off an earlier drawing. We have a sheep, which is based off a photo of a sheep I took. And my little alien character's gone a bit Geigerish-y there. So here's Perchicon Day 1. Some of this I like, some I don't. Essential bit's good. I think that's good here. Although this bit here needs, so this bit, so it needs more roundiness because that sort of, this is round and that doesn't really fit if, because this looks flat. But this thing here is what I expanded to the other day. A while ago, I think in November, I drew a Fiddler Crab from a photo I have, which I took when I was in Cairns. Here's the biomechanical version. And because of the palm trees in the background, this looks more like woodwork than biomechanical stuff. But still comes out okay. And I totally forgot to do any texturing in here, which is white, and it should at least have the texture of this thing or be shadowed. An alien based on an alien from years ago, which looks nothing like the original. But this just means I've got a new character. This is an attempt to copy the H.R. Geiger's Alien cover, which is that. Turned into that. So purely practice on how to do stuff. And that actually helped in subsequent H.R. Geiger challenge drawings, because I got some more insight into how to draw various components. That was a productive day. Some Ouroboros-y thing, and I added this worm thing after. I'm not too sure that lines up with that properly. Based on how that's tapering, maybe that should be a bit skinnier, but meh. An alien based off what I remembered from the cover design I just showed you, versus a few quick glances at a figurine that I have. One thing I find that is tricky is trying to get the definition of the inner tongue to actually show up. But that's why we practice. That nothing on the back, Coach Kobik. A Biomechanical Dog I drew years ago. Most of this is sort of traced, but when I did this originally, the foot was different, and this rear leg didn't exist at all. So I added those in, and then I coloured it in Photoshop. I don't think very well because it wound up being way too dark. Here's the alien we saw from a couple of pages ago as part of concept design. Interestingly, that was the first thing I drew. I drew these later, and because this is really chunky, maybe that should be bigger around here. Not too happy with some of this, but it's good for a character exploration. We have this, which I think I called the Squiddycon, which is also based on an older design. These here don't match these here, but I'd probably make these ends here match here, here, and here if I was going to fix it. I am happy with how this bit works and this bit went as well. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing day, what was this? Third day of my manga challenge. So later in the manga challenge book, we'll bring it out. Later in the book, there's these critters, which I might have gone too far. Critters, where are the critters? Yeah, so this sort of stuff. So I gave this like a 2-second glance and then decided to have a go at that. That's a really quick and nasty reproduction of something in the book, so it looks absolutely nothing like it. That's Aeon Flux from the top of my head. That's Aeon Flux based on a screenshot. That's Mr. Gordon based on a screenshot. I think that led to doing the max, which we'll see next. And I might have another go at that as part of my manga challenge. Who knows? Because I've got, what, 4 days to go. Here's the max drawn as part of the manga challenge. I actually like how the muscles have come out, purely as a result of compartmentalizing the drawing of the purple. It's actually given some extra texture to the muscles. And I did some swatching before I coloured him in. So yeah, I'm happy with that one. Nothing about Cthulhu Aeon Flux. Did a video of this. There's texturing here isn't what you get in the cartoon. It's there because I went over with the marker again, which smudged that, so maybe that ink wasn't dry. And the hair, this should be like dark grey instead of brown. I was thinking this wasn't going to work at all when I drew her originally. I thought the eyes weren't going to work and the nose was like up here, but it came out quite nice, which is good, despite the fact that it's too big for the page. But anyway, that's what you get when you don't plan. Again, Copic, so no using of the page. Investigating head studies, trying to get the heads right. That one I think came out the best. I ran out of steam, so I drew something else. That's supposed to be Vash the Stampede. Again, that's supposed to be Trevor Free on Flux, and I decided to whack in a Predator just for shits and giggles. Again, this is the first go at the alien we saw a few pages ago. This is the one I was trying to draw, and he wound up sort of looking like he was wearing this instead of that, which is why he's a totally new character now. Trying to draw Cthulhu flying above water. So the main aim with this one was to get this looking like the anime effect you see, where there's water disturbances. I couldn't find references for that anywhere, which is why it's crap. But I've since seen what I want to reproduce in, I think, The Last Airbender. So I might give that a watch and then do another drawing similar to that, but maybe with a jet or something. Don't know. Almost at the end. Yeah, there's nothing on the back, Copics. That's basically Trevor Goodchild's eye from a still from Aeon Flux. I like how the way Peter Chung does the eyes, as in this sort of two-tone colour. Highlight, which is why I tried the reproducer here, and I think I did quite well. So nothing on the back, because Copic, but I can probably do the eye and do some more eye studies there if I really wanted to. Here I was trying to do anime heads, so I started with the female and decided to do another Predator, because why not? I'm actually happy how this bit turned out, because it's just slightly darker marker with some texture, which implies that there's some sheer fabric here. I think that eye turns out better than that. And the way I've done the highlighting, yeah, it's okay for a first attempt. I've tried to emulate that here as well, and also do some highlights by not actually doing any colouring in on the Predator. Took 31 minutes apparently. So again, nothing about Copic. A mix of fashion croquets and trying to draw anime style / manga style. So trying to do some sort of Aeon Flux clothing here, and then some other stuff. That just, the heads were totally wrong on this, and this just gives me the impression of the Joker out of the one of Heath Ledger in it. Heath Ledger. Don't know why. Maybe it's the wide shoulders. Almost at the end. A whole bunch of head and hand studies. Whacking that, and I think that onto the croquets from the previous day made them look a hell of a lot better. So that's one thing practice is good for. And then I did some hand studies on the same day. Some of these came out well. This is the very first one I did, based on the screen capture from thinking Aeon Flux, and I think that comes out the best. Almost giving up on the hands here. That's supposed to be a hand, which I turned into some weird dog thing. Let me do more hands. Trying to vary how I'm actually doing them, so using templates, various templates, and half working, half not working. So I've still got to work on how I draw hands, because I'm crap at those at small scale. And then the very last drawing is my Octo dude, but in a anime style, which is this dude. So yep, that is the sketchbook for January 1st to the 25th of April 2021. Based on that, it'll be another 3 months before we have another sketchbook tour. So enjoy. So subscribe, like, share, all that stuff. And until next time, take care. Happy drawing.